Hey everybody, Jared Sessler here. There's a great article by Brian Haywood today on the Jacobin socialism versus the Fabian socialism. It's a very interesting article and I recommend that you read it because he defines what's happening in our state with clarity. We also need to articulate the difference between necessary compromise and straight up betrayal because it's happening on both sides. Our political system is as broken as our culture, and that also needs to be fixed. But Brian is right that we can't take one big bite of this apple. We need to chip away and take all the ground we can get as we can get it. We here in Washington are in a more difficult situation than most realize. The left tastes the benefit of a supermajority in Olympia. If they were able to get that, what would be the reason for any of the Republicans to even go to Olympia? And even worse, imagine how difficult it would be to get anyone good to even run for office. Why? Who wants to bang their heads against the wall when the Democrats just pass whatever they want to because they have a supermajority? The truth is we are in the fight of our lives, and it's not going to be short or quick. I'd guess we were 10 years or so into a 25-year fight. I don't say that to be pessimistic. I say it because of the Stockdale paradox, which was detailed in Jim Collins' book called Good to Great, which came out more than 20 years ago. Basically, what the overview is that for prisoners of war, those that believe that they'd be out by Tuesday or by Christmas or in a month or a year, they lost heart and committed suicide. However, those that realized that they didn't know when they'd be free, but they fully believed that at someday they would be able to be free, then they would stay the course. One could also lean into our faith as we look at this. Salvation through Jesus gives us the very same eternal hope that is demonstrated in the Stockdale paradox. Our hope is in the unseen but assured, not in the seen or the results of this week or this month or this year. Our biggest problems are cancers that sort of mentally plague our population. They're very simple to define. One is ignorance, the other is apathy. Ignorance is just simply, I don't know. Apathy is, I don't care. How do you solve for these? They are a bit of a yin and yang. When you don't know, you don't care. When you don't care, you tend to not study, so you also are never going to know. Okay, fine. But that doesn't tell me how we solve for these problems. So let me demonstrate two pathways that you could solve these problems. One is through incentive. The other is through pain. Sadly, we humans are accustomed to doing little to nothing without pain. I would argue that the incentive path is also fueled by pain. In order to incentivize someone, you need to have some leverage, something they want. The problem is you can't just buy it because who would write the checks on this kind of a scale? People want the American dream, but they generally are not motivated or incentivized to work for it for 40 years. When you say that to a young person, they get discouraged and put their face back in their screen. We all want the American dream today or tomorrow, not 40 years from now. So incentive is what motivates us, but we often need a greater purpose for us to be incentivized. For example, most men want a gorgeous, loving, and respectful wife. A wise young man is going to look beyond his good looks and think about, well, what does that gorgeous lady want in a husband? And in that, he will find some incentive to work hard and to grow himself into that man. That is incentive. Understanding our faith and our opportunities that God has given us can be a strong incentive, but that requires faith and often a long-term trust in God that regardless of your circumstance, it's all going to be okay. Finally, we come to the idea of pain. Pain is inevitable, sadly. I remember wanting to protect my kids as they were growing up from all manner of pain as they were growing older and they were experiencing difficulties. But then God challenged me as he showed me that he used pain to bring me to himself over and over again. So I relented and realized that not only could I not protect my kids from all pain from this world, but that it would actually be good for them because God can use it to draw them to himself, just as he did with me. We experience other sorts of pain also. Paying my property taxes, for example, each year on land I worked my whole life to buy is painful. Filling up my tank in my truck is painful. Worrying about the loony people are teaching our kids in America is painful. Watching the news and seeing innocent people hurt, raped, and killed by thugs, all because we refuse to abide by the rule of law that reigned here since the social compact, is painful to watch. Watching businesses get looted is painful. Watching people get struck or beaten up by random strangers while simply walking down the sidewalk is painful. Seeing the bills that come out of our state and our state legislature is painful. Seeing hard-fought initiatives, the highest priority of our state constitution, be diluted by elected representatives is painful. Speaking of elections, seeing and knowing that our elections are not legitimate is painful, but not as painful as realizing that far too many people in this state are openly against taking steps to make our elections accountable. We harvested some beef at our ranch this week, and it's always painful to watch them drop after feeding, providing, and caring for them, but that's what we grow them for. Watching people openly lie in the political space just for position and power that they are clearly not equipped or ready to handle is painful. Seeing elected do their best to hold ground while having no master plan for how to rescue the state is painful to watch. Seeing the pain of others is painful. These are all pain points. God uses our pain to draw us to himself. People are motivated by pain. We don't like it. The Revolutionary War was arguably a pretty high pain point for America. Although only about 15% of the population was involved in the war and maybe more were supporting, only about 3% were active in the fight at any one time. Using those numbers and assuming that we see the pain continue to increase here in Washington as the tyranny abounds, what would it look like to have 3% of the state stand up and raise their hands and agree to get in the fight of our lives to rescue our beautiful state? King County would have over 70,000 people standing and looking to attend the county Republican Party meeting. Spokane would have 17,000. Clark would have 16,000. Yakima, where we should move the capital of the state, would have 8,000 people showing up. Benton would have 7,000. Can you imagine the county party meeting in the Tri-Cities needing a space for 7,000 people? Skagit would have 4,000. Grant and Franklin would have 3,000. Chelan and Grays Harbor would have 2,500. Douglas, Okanagan, and Kittitas would have 1,500 each. Adams, which doesn't have a functional or active Republican Party, would have over 600 people looking to help. What I've been saying for years is that the pain is increasing, and as at some point, the pain is going to be enough to activate people. As Brian says in his article, we need to have a long view of this, and we need to be okay with taking seasons of rest if we need it. But we cannot just pick our toys up and walk away or move to another state. That doesn't solve the problem. At best, it prolongs it. Do you think these other states are perfect? Far from it. We live in the best, most beautiful state, the most diverse state in the country, and we are wise to cinch up our bootstraps and accept the fact that we are in the fight of our lives, and many of us are going to grow old as we endure what is to come. I've written curriculum that I offer to all county parties that is actually very good. I have a plan to fully rescue the state of Washington. I don't say this like I'm some sort of magician. I'm an engineer. I've studied problems my whole life, and I can see what a clear pathway looks like for us to come out of this. We must be people ready to receive new people into our county parties and Liberty caucuses. We must be well led and governed ourselves so that those visiting don't walk out the same door they walked in and never return because of our infighting and chaos. Some of us have been meeting to frame up what the entire rescue could look like for Washington State. But the truth is, some of the hoops that we need to go through as a state are not up to us. We don't know the timing of when they're going to happen. It's our responsibility to be ready. We just need to be ready, and we need to believe that we can win. And with that attitude, everything is on our side. We will rescue Washington State.